All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to On the Sidelines with Sav. Tonight, I am joined by TJ Pittinger. I had filmed a video a little bit earlier today, kind of introducing him to come on my channel, but he is the FSU insider. But I also love him for his memes and clowning of other Florida programs. That's my personal favorite part. But yes, thank you so much for being here tonight, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate you offering an invite. Yeah, when I was growing up, like just to kind of answer that a little bit, like the big three was a real thing, and it really hasn't been for a long time. Like usually one or two of the teams, like somebody's always good, but usually like one or two of them suck. And so, but it was fun back in the day. Like for people that are my age or our age, like it was cool when the big three was all really good. And every year the championship felt like it went, you either had to beat a Florida school or they won it. And so, yeah, I mean, those were good times. And so the rivalry was great when I was growing up. And so, yeah, even though one of us or two of us always think like the making fun of Florida and Miami for anything we can is certainly a fun part of social media at this point.
Yeah, it will never get old, especially like you have so much content this week with the Florida loss to USF.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I'm driving. Yeah, I'll tell you funny. So I've told this a couple of times now, but whatever. People can enjoy it or think I'm a psycho. Probably both. But I'm driving home from Tallahassee and I'm watching it on the iPad as I'm driving home.
Yeah.
Mostly listening to it because I'm literally driving through Gainesville and service is terrible. But the audio was working fine. So I get home with like 2 minutes to go and they're driving down the field, trying to kick this last field goal. And I took my sons to the game and I'm like, they're like getting them. I'm like stiff arming them out of the way. Like I have to see these last 2 minutes. And I get inside. They line up for this literally an extra point, 2-yard field, 19-yard field goal. And my daughter was like, why are you shaking? And I was like, because if he misses this, we're getting a new TV tomorrow. Like they're going to put me on the internet. Like this is, and so of course he made it. And the jokes and the trolls have not stopped since then. But yeah, I was pretty amped up when that happened.
No, absolutely, as you should be. That the way you feel about that is like how I felt watching UNC's first game against TCU. Like that was a generational hate watch for me.
Dude, I live in Tampa, so I mean I think you know that, but like I live in Tampa, so like I kind of like USF. Like I'm not like I'm having a USF gear or clothes, but I want them to do well. They're the local team. It's not like a rivalry with FSU. And so so it was that. It was just the idea of like they're taking down your biggest rival in like the most embarrassing way possible. Those moments have happened to us. And so
for sure.
To see it happen to other people, it's that meme of like, someone else's downfall and it's like me happy because I was praying for it. It felt really good.
Yeah, no, that's so facts. It's like I want to pray on the downfall, but at the same time, like you said, like I've totally been there before. Yeah. And so like it's kind of also nice to be like, oh, I'm not the only one. But you're right, getting embarrassed in the swamp is certainly something. But I remember like the old days of USF being good. Like, I don't know if you remember like the Jason Pierre-Paul days.
Yeah.
Like my dad coached Savannah Lore. My dad coached Jason Pierre-Paul at the junior college that he went to before he went to USF.
No way. Yeah. No, they were awesome back then today. I went when they beat West Virginia that game in 2007. Matt Grothe was the quarterback. They were so much fun. And I loved West Virginia then too. Like it was Steve Slayton and all those guys, Pat White. They were those matchups were awesome. I loved the Big East, and so it sucks that it's gone. But man, like I was there when they upset them, and then South Florida got up to number 2 in the country. They were man, we used to go all the time because it was just so easy to get into Bulls games and being so close and stuff. So I remember the glory days, and I mean I like Jim Levitt a lot too. He's got his own issues now, but he was fun, and I like Golish too. It sucks that this is. He's probably got 10 games left there, but I do like him a lot.
That is the unfortunate way that college football works these days, but good for him. Honestly.
For sure.
He has a big, I mean, I know we said we were going to talk ACC. I guess we might as well start with that. They also have a big game this week against Miami. Do you think, I mean, I know we said we'd talk about games from last week, but since we're talking about it, do you think they also upset Miami or no?
I think it would be, listen, I would love nothing more than to see both of my rivals go down 2 weeks in a row. But I have a tough time seeing it, right? Like it's kind of like that heat check, right? When you're playing hoops and you've hit a couple from outside, and then you're like, oh, let me fire up this one from midcourt just to see if it goes in. And sometimes it does, but more often than not, that heat check gets you. And so I do think Miami will be better prepared, because I think the Boise State thing was like, it was cute, but it was also a Thursday night. Not that the coach, like, not that Florida wasn't aware, but it was also a Thursday night. They didn't have Genty. Maybe they're just not that good, this, that, and the other. I don't know how Florida didn't take them seriously. I know they play LSU next, and then Miami, and then Texas, and then A&M. Like, they've got a tough schedule. But like, I don't know how they didn't take them seriously to start. They have Miami's full attention, and Miami has a bye week after this, before they end up playing Florida. Or actually, no, they play Florida and then have their bye week, I think. Maybe I might be getting a week wrong or something, but there's no look ahead for Miami. You're playing a ranked team. I also think Miami's trenches are a little bit better than UF's. So it would shock me. It would shock me if they did it. Now I want them to, sorry, the ACC folks, but like, I would love it. It's great. I think it's good for college football, man. It's a lot of fun, but I would be, I don't know, if you play this game 10 times, maybe USF wins 1 or 2. Like, I do think Miami's really good this year. I think they're much better than Florida. And so I'd be pretty surprised. But you let I don't want to call them a bad team, but you let an inferior team hang around, that's how upsets happen. If Florida would have just finished in the red zone and been up like 17-3 at the half, which they should have been, this upset doesn't happen. But they couldn't finish in the red. So if Miami does all the stupid things that Florida did, sure, they could lose, but I doubt it. I think they win pretty easily.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I was talking about it with someone earlier today, and it exactly boils down to the fact that, like, exactly what you said. They beat Boise State, who cares? And then they beat Florida. So like, now Miami's like, oh, this is serious. Like, they're a team we need to not like overlook and worry about the next week. So absolutely. All right. Well, let's get into our reactions to ACC games from week 2. I think it only seems right if we start off with the game that was on Friday, JMU at Louisville. What are your thoughts on that game? Louisville ended up winning 28-14, but it was close there for a while.
Yeah, tied going into the fourth quarter, which is not what I wanted to see. I'm not the ACC homer you are. I'll say that.
No, that's fine. That's fair.
Not what I wanted to see from the team that I said was going to play Clemson in the ACC championship. I feel terrible about both those picks now. So I don't know, man. Like I mean, Miller Moss wasn't incredibly sharp. I mean, they found a way to win, and that's all that matters, right? Because you could be sitting here like UF and have a loss to this team, or it wasn't just Louisville that struggled. They, Clemson struggled with who did they? Troy, Georgia Tech, obviously without Haynes King. We'll get to that. So a lot of teams struggled, right? LSU didn't look great against their inferior opponent. Georgia didn't look good against Austin Peay. Like, this happened. So I do think there's an aspect of like not trying to open up the playbook too much, not trying to go so over the top when you know that you've got bigger games coming. But man, when you play with fire, I do think that it can certainly come back to burn you. Miller Moss didn't look especially good. Man, Isaac Brown, who I'm really, really high on, he had 104 yards, but 78 of that came on one rush. And so you look at his other 11 rushes, he had 30 yards. You're averaging 3 yards a pop. And that's not good enough against a JMU team that you're significantly better than. They also didn't run him a lot. Like, I think just the way the game went, they spread it around a bit, but you would think you could run the ball a little more effectively. Although I'll say all this, and the defense was fine. They gave up 14 points and, 2 touchdowns, one each half. I do have a lot of faith in Brom. I think he's one of the better coaches in the country, but certainly the ACC. So I'm not super, super concerned there, but I mean, they certainly need to figure it out now. But at the end of the day, you're 2-0. You have some leeway with which to work with, and they play Bowling Green Nets. So it's not like super enticing of like, oh man, how are we going to do this? But I was I was sweating a little bit when they were down, or I guess it was tied going into the fourth quarter. But you're thinking like, dude, my ACC champion pick or participant, I think I had them losing to Clemson. Yeah. I'm like, Doug, you're making me look bad. You're making me look worse than I already do.
No, I think the bottom line is what you exactly said. I wish people understood how hard it is to go 1-0 each week. Like, I don't think people get how hard that really is. Like, it is very hard to go 1-0 each week. But same, I had missed part of the game. I stepped away, and then I came back, and it was still tied at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And same, I was like, oh, I know we're not supposed to underestimate JMU because they always upset an ACC team. Sure. Sometimes it's like UNC. Sometimes it's been me on the other side of that too. But like, I was surprised that it was tied going into the fourth. So yeah, definitely. That was the first game of the week. The second game of the week was Bethune Cookman at Miami. Miami destroyed them 45-3. Carson Beck had a pretty good day. He went for 267 yards. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, Beck went 22 for 24, if I remember correctly, and
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
incompletions were drops. Like
Yeah.
he was so on. And listen, it brings me no joy to have to take this victory lap here, but I was not as low on Carson Beck as a lot of people were. Like a lot of people just thought he was going to come in and just be an absolute bust. I mean, Georgia did him no favors with protection and with their wideouts last year. And I didn't think that Carson was going to come in and win a Heisman. Like I didn't think he was going to replicate Cam Ward by any means, but I thought he'd be pretty good. And through 2 games, he looks pretty freaking good. And they've got big tests. 3 good Florida teams, which again, we'll see about UF, but like they've got to play USF, then Florida State in Doak. And so his biggest tests are coming very soon. But I mean, Carson's so impressive. Bethune-Cookman's they're so overmatched. And what Miami did was they didn't play with their food, right? Like Louisville did, and Florida did, and LSU and Georgia did. And Miami just said like, no, we're going to beat the crap out of this team. And, they took their licks and went home. Miami could have named their score in this game. And they scored in their first, 4 or 5 possessions. Yeah. They were so sharp. And, they did what you're supposed to do to a pretty inferior opponent. No disrespect to Bethune-Cookman.
No, 1000%. I was one of those people who was low on Carson Beck. I was like, I think he might be a bust. But I love to be proven wrong, especially when it's in the ACC. So I'll take it. I mean, I knew it wasn't all him. I've said this before and I'll say it again. The receiving core at Georgia did him no favors last year. But it's been impressive so far, honestly. It seems like it's the right fit for him. I think highly of the offense that Mario Cristobal runs. But I think he's been pretty spot on. But I do agree. I think that the next 3 weeks, you're right, they have a bye in there somewhere. The next 3 weeks that they have a game is definitely their biggest test. Speaking of teams that played with their food, Clemson and Troy at Clemson, 27-16.
Yeah. So I'm watching this while I'm watching this on my phone. Terrible parent doing this, but whatever. I'm checking the scores on this on my phone while I'm watching the UF-USF game. Yeah. And I'm looking at it, 16-3 at the half? And Troy left like 4 points on the board. They missed a field goal and an extra point. And I'll say this. Even at 16-3 at the half, I didn't think Clemson was going to lose this game. I thought they'd come back. I'll give Clemson a little grace and say, look, they were the weather. Like when you have to come out and have a weather delay, go back in, that screws with people. I mean, you would know that better than a lot of people. Like, there's no way to get amped all the way back up when things like that happen. Yeah. Also, the interest level, you've just lost a super emotional game to LSU the week before. Who really cares about playing Troy the next week? Although it is important. You can't lose that or your season's basically over. Yeah. So I think that I can give a little grace there. I also think offensively they were so super vanilla because they just don't want to put anything else on film that they've already, more than what they've put. So I do give them a little grace. And at the end of the day, they scored 24 points unanswered in the second half and went out and took care of enough business to get the win. But yeah, I mean, I'll take the victory laps, but I'll also eat the crow. I had Cade as QB1 in this conference and maybe even this country. And he certainly has not looked like that through 2 games. So I am pulling. I'm not a, go Clemson fan or anything like that. But I do think that, I'd like to see him play a little bit better than he has this year so far. And, when we get into ACC play, they play Georgia Tech this weekend. He better get on it. Yeah, I am an ACC homer for sure. In the sense that, I think this is going to get clipped. Shoot. But I got to say it. I think that college football is better when Clemson is good. I think college football is better when Florida State's good. Sure. But I think that it's better when they're good. And so I need to see more from him. And he also, I'll eat the crow on this too. I thought his offense line was going to be one of the best in the country. It's not Miami by any means. But, I thought they were going to be great. And he hasn't done much. He has one of the deepest receiving cores as well. So I agree. I think this week's matchup against Georgia Tech with, I'm hoping, a healthy Haynes King is going to be interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Speaking of Georgia Tech, let's talk about them next. Georgia Tech I didn't watch this game, full transparency, because I was multitasking times a million. But Georgia Tech played Gardner-Webb at Georgia Tech. Aaron Philo started the game and played the whole game. I didn't even know until I started watching highlights today that they didn't have that Haynes King was out and not playing. What are your thoughts on that game? Yeah, what I really like is how much experience the backup got in there. And he played a lot last year too. He was playing in that Miami game that they upset them. He played in several games because listen, I love Brent Key, and he
Yeah.
might be my favorite coach, outside of my own, my own coach,
Yeah.
right, whatever. He might be my favorite coach in the conference. He's so good, and he motivates his guys better than anybody. There's a little bit of Gardner Webb's terrible if you can go in with a backup and still win by almost 50. But Haynes is not gonna make it through the whole year. Like, and I'm not saying he has like a season-ending injury, but you're gonna need your backup to come in and do some things. They threw the ball nearly 30 times. He had almost 400 yards, just one touchdown, but a couple of times getting down inside the red zone, and then they just kind of ran it in. They finished with 5 touchdowns on the ground. So I do think that what they're able to do and the experience they're able to get a backup is important because, listen, I love Brent Key, and I don't think he has another way to win except for doing this, but like they kill Haynes King when he's out there, and it sucks because that's the only way they can really win. But I do think getting the experience for the backup's a big deal. And again, he played a lot last year. He's probably going to take plenty of snaps this year too because of the way they play. But Gardner Webb, so like again, you roll a backup out there and you still kind of wax a team. No disrespect to them, but it's hard to. I will say this: it's hard to take away a lot from that one, just because. Me or you probably could have started at quarterback and been just fine with the athletes that Georgia Tech has. But Georgia Tech's test, was it worth it? Will be on Saturday, like you mentioned.
Yeah, this Saturday is one of the games I'm most looking forward to, and I'm hoping that Haynes King can play the whole thing. I am, because I think Georgia Tech upsets him. Honestly,
yeah. If he plays the whole game, I feel really good about Georgia Tech's chances. If he doesn't, I think Clemson is going to click. And maybe that's just like the homer in me believing in Dabo or Cade or whatever, or not wanting to move off my early season pick. I'm sure people said the same thing about Florida State last year. Well, eventually they'll figure it out, right? And then we got late enough in the year and they're like, they ain't figuring it out. But I do think that Clemson will click. If they were happy to click this week and they didn't have Haynes King for all 60 minutes, that ain't going to be good for Georgia Tech. So, yeah, I hope he's able to play. I think this is it's a noon game, so it's like, everybody complains, oh, the noon window sucks. Like, you've got some good noon games this weekend, and this is number one to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's at Georgia Tech, so I think that helps. It doesn't help a ton, and no disrespect to Georgia Tech, but if you've been to Clemson and you've been to Georgia Tech, the difference is astonishing.
It's almost a bigger deal to not play at Clemson than it is to play at home.
Yes.
It's not so much that Georgia Tech. Now, I was there when they blocked Aguayo's field goal and ran it back. So that place got pretty rowdy then. But I do think that, it's just a bigger win to not have to go into Death Valley and play.
Absolutely. This game was most disappointing to me. I thought Duke would perform better. They had number 11 Illinois at Duke and lost 45-19. I genuinely had them covering the spread. So I'm disappointed in what happened. What do you think?
Yeah, and they kind of were in this game too, right? Like it was a game going to the fourth quarter. We had it on in the where I was watching Florida State play, and it was a noon kick too. And I was like, man, Duke's doing a good job. They're hanging around. I think it was, 19 to, they were close, right? Second half, they got blitzed. They Illinois went on like a 31-6 run in the second half. And that was the end of that. But they were hanging around for the first, 2.5 quarters. And the dam broke open. I don't know. I'm a little lower on Duke this year. I know they've got some very winnable games. I think Illinois is really good. I'll say that. I do think Illinois has a very realistic chance to make the college football playoff in the Big Ten. I think there's a pretty clear top 3 in the Big Ten with Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State. Yeah. And I think that fourth spot's pretty wide open, whether they can get it out at Washington, whether Michigan can rebound from their loss to Oklahoma. I think Illinois is in there. I think Indiana's maybe right outside of that top, that next tier, but they could certainly, have some success too if they can pull some upsets. I think the Illinois-Washington matchup is what I'm looking at, is if the Big Ten gets a fourth team in, because I think the other 3 are pretty much locks. If the Big Ten gets a fourth team in, Illinois is probably that team. It's what I would guess right now. Yeah. And so I don't want to crap on Duke too much because I do think Illinois is really good. But man, to hang around, it felt like one of those. It felt like I know this is football, but it felt like March Madness when one of those kind of lower seeded teams can hang around with the Dukes or whoever for a half, and then the second half, Duke ends up pulling away and winning by 23 or whatever. And you're like, oh well, that first half was fun. That's what that felt like here. They just felt overmatched, and so Duke's got some figuring out to do. Obviously, they lost a ton last year. Their schedule is way tougher than it was last year. Yeah. So I do think that. I like Manny. I like what they do a lot. man, a Manny Diaz coach team giving up 45 points is wild to think about. But I do think they'll be fine long term, but this could be a bumps and bruises type of year.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure yet if that game proved to me that Illinois was good or that Duke is bad. And I think I'll have a better idea, like you said, Illinois-Washington game, but I think I'll also have a better idea about Duke this weekend with Tulane and the whole story of the quarterbacks and all the things that are so interesting. But I think it's an emotional game this week coming up, so I think that adds to it. But I agree. I actually really like Manny Diaz. I think he got screwed at Miami. Yeah. And so I do want to see him do well. That sounds terrible. It's another triangle team. I want to see him do well, but never better than me, I guess. That's how I'll phrase that.
Yeah.
All right. Just take us through the FSU absolute beatdown on East Texas A&M.
Yeah. What I was most impressed about this is I think it's really easy to get up for Alabama. I don't think it's easy to beat Alabama, but I think it's really easy to get up for Alabama, right? And so what I wanted to see out of Florida State was them give a crap about this game. And they did. Like, they went out and they didn't play with their food. They weren't perfect by any means, but they scored on all but one drive when a walk-on fumbled, right? Like, our walk-ons outscored them 21-3 in the fourth quarter. So that says a lot about how bad the opponent was. So I'm not, Florida State's back because they won a massive win. No, the other team was terrible. East Texas A&M was, I didn't even know that college existed before I saw this schedule. So no offense to them if any Lions fans are in here watching, but I do think that the way that Florida State gave effort in this game was a big deal. There were 2 times, this was my biggest takeaway. There were 2 times where East Texas A&M got 8 and 9 yards on first down. And on neither of those series did they punted on both of them. They weren't able to convert the first down. And so to me, in a game you're up by 35, in a game you're going to blow the other team out, you were a 50-point favorite. If they'd have converted that 2nd and 1 into a first down, like, nobody would have been upset. Nobody would have cared, right? They would have gone from there. They would have gone 3 and out.
Yeah.
The way that the defense showed effort of no, we're not letting you get this. Even if it's 1 yard, we don't care. You're not getting it. Both times on 2nd down, on 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2, they pushed them backwards. They lost yardage. And then on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, they weren't able to convert. I thought that was really, really impressive. Yeah. All the other stuff, I mean, your wide receivers are running wide open. Your running backs can't be caught. You're just playing a bad opponent. But I do think the effort level was what I was most impressed with Florida State.
No, I love that. That game was a noon kickoff, so I was leaning heavily on you to tell me about it. There's not great service in Kyle Field, but it seems like you guys put the beat down and that the team showed up. And like you said, it was a good, hey, you can show up for Alabama, but can you show up for the rest of the season? I think Florida State is doing better than I projected them to do this year already, to be honest. And I love to see it. I am a Gus Malzahn supporter. I am a Herb Hand supporter, so I love to see it. Okay. The most heartbreaking. There was 2 actually. This is one of the 2 most heartbreaking losses for the ACC this week. Baylor at number 17, SMU, a double overtime loss, and final score 48-45.
Yeah. What's tough here is that I thought Baylor tried to give SMU every single chance that they could to win this game. I thought Baylor put this up on a silver platter for SMU. And I love Rat Lashley. All I've done so far is, talk about how much I love all the coaches in this conference. There is some really good coaching in this conference. Yeah. And so, man, I really thought that SMU had this thing won. And I thought, and I picked Baylor before the game. I thought I really like Sawyer Robertson and I picked them to win. But I found myself cheering for SMU because Baylor just kept doing stupid stuff. And every time they do something stupid, SMU couldn't capitalize. So, ton of offense. You've nearly got 100 points in this thing scored. So that was a ton of fun. But, man, I felt like Baylor had this thing for the taking, and they couldn't get it done. Now, they get a chance to redeem themselves in ACC play for sure. But it was frustrating watching SMU just blow this thing because I really did think it was theirs to go get.
Yeah, it was like I said, I was in College Station and I get this text that's like, "Hey, are you watching the SMU Baylor game?" And I'm like, "No, should I be?" So I turn it on in the bathroom while I'm there, and I'm like heartbreaking to lose in double overtime. I just hate it. I hate it. I hate it for the ACC. Speaking of, the other heartbreaking one was the Boston College at Michigan State. I watched that. It's hard for me because I love Michigan State on the side. It's like my side piece, I guess.
That's great.
So I had a really hard time like picking Boston College to win because I was like, oh, I'm going against Michigan State. But that was also devastating. It was a double overtime as well, and Michigan State ended up pulling off the win 42-40.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with BC's offense, and then at the same time, thought their defense was just absolute garbage. You know, I mean, you give up 42 points even in double overtime. You're like, come on, man. Michigan State's not a world beater under Jonathan Smith by any means yet. I thought Lonergan looked good. Lonergan, sorry. I thought he looked good. At the same time, like BC's got a lot of tough games, and you probably needed something like this to go your way to end up making a bowl. They do have Stanford, Cal, UConn. Those are all very winnable games. Syracuse as well, but you kind of need to be perfect in those because I don't have a lot of faith that they beat Georgia Tech, SMU, Louisville, Notre Dame, Clemson, Pitt. It will be really tough on the road. So I think Boston College just kind of let an opportunity slip away here in a game that, yeah, I mean, you go to double overtime, you got every chance to go out and win. And, they couldn't close very well. And so I think Boston College is in a better spot than they were. I mean, obviously, Florida State fans are happy with getting Tommy Castellanos, and Dylan fits a little more of what Bill O'Brien wants to do. But I don't know if I see them making a bowl after losing this one. I think they really needed to have it, but maybe they'll prove me wrong.
No, I agree with you. I think that was one that they really needed to win. I think they also really needed to win it because as much as, like I said, I love Michigan State, they're not a good football team. The fact that they let 42 points against them is crazy and just shows that their defense didn't show up. I do agree. I think it's a bummer. They play Stanford this week. If they want to prove who they are, they really need to put the beat down on Stanford because, as we know, Stanford, no disrespect, but Stanford is just not where they're trying to be at this moment in time. Next up, my dad's game, Virginia at NC State. There's nothing worse than when your dad plays the last university he coached at. Like I wish that like I could bottle up the feeling and give it to people so that you could know how miserable it is. Like I can't imagine how Shane Beamer felt week 1 playing Virginia Tech. Like I can't even imagine it. Truthfully, I tweeted about this. It was hilarious. I decided I was like not going to watch the game. Everyone's like, why aren't you there? And I'm like, I don't think you realize I would do everything in my power to avoid being there and being a part of that. And so that's the main reason I was at my brother's game. And I'm at my brother's game and I'm like, okay, do I want to watch? Do I not want to watch? We're losing. We're down 10 at halftime, right? It's 24, 14? Yeah. And I'm like, oh gosh, a 10-point deficit is just not good. Not a good place to be. And then I was like, the last 2 minutes, I was like, okay, I need to watch this because there was like 4 minutes left. We got the ball. We didn't convert any points. I don't remember like what exactly happened because I didn't have the best service. And then they got the ball back and our defense is giving up points. And like, I am not one of those people that's like going to blame the offense or the defense. Football is a team sport. And so like, if it's not the defense this week, it might be the defense next week and it might be the offense this week. So anyway, I don't want to put bad karma on the defense, but I'm like, oh gosh, we got to get this stop. And I'm like, okay, I got to watch this. So I look over at my mom and I'm like, Mom, I don't feel in a peaceful spot to watch the last 2 minutes of this game. I'm going to go. And she's like, oh yeah. Go do what you need to do. And we have this like phrase that we're using these days where it's like, we're having so much fun because it's so stressful that it's not fun. So we're trying to remind ourselves that it's fun. And so I like go in the family bathroom. I lock the door. And I'm like, I put my phone just up on the sink and I'm just like crouching like this. I'm just like, please God, let this go my way. I won't ask for anything else. Like this is all I need. And then the defense showed up when we needed them to. They got an interception in the end zone, transfer from Utah State. Ironically, the game I was at is who got it. And so it like worked out. But I mean, I can give like a quick breakdown. I'm impressed by CJ Bailey. I won't say too much because I'm superstitious, but like, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I thought they looked really good. I mean, it was so weird that there were 60-something points scored in the first 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter just went to like complete crap. But you said, like, I honestly thought, I thought Virginia was going to win this thing. They were driving. They had like a 50-yard drive, missed a field goal, 50-yard drive, turnover on downs, 60-yard drive, and then throw a pick. Like, they were moving the ball. And I was like, all right, well, the dam's going to break. Like, NC State's just not holding up. I mean, You don't want to blame the defense. I'll do it. Like the defense was, I mean, they made the plays when they mattered. I'll put it that way. But man, it really felt like, Virginia could have scored. I mean, they very easily could have scored 17 points in that fourth quarter. You make a field goal, you don't turn the ball over on downs inside of your opponent's red zone, and then you don't throw a pick in the end zone. I mean, they were right there. And so, man, what a missed opportunity for Virginia. But honestly, I think that got a lot of people's attention. I mean, I think a lot of people were like, I mean, in Tallahassee, thinking, man, that Virginia game shouldn't be too bad. And they could score some points. And if, they made some mistakes, they kind of screwed up. But anyway, your question was about Bailey. Yeah, I mean, I thought he was really good. They kind of went a little weird toward the end of the game. And Virginia bowed up too. Like they've got players on their team that make plays. But I was impressed with Bailey. I thought he did pretty good. I mean, like they didn't ask him to do too much. He only threw the ball 23 times. Had one really long rush, which obviously was a big difference in what they were doing. But he had 3 touchdowns total. No turnovers was a big deal. And so I think that helps a ton, right? Like I think if you can just not do too much, and that's what I think they need to ask CJ Bailey to do, not to try and act like the NC State expert on here with you. But if they just ask him to not do too much, that's a much better situation. I don't know how many games he's going to go out there and put the team on his back and go out and slay the giant, right? Now, against the Stanfords of the world or whoever, like the bad teams on their schedule, he'll be fine. But in some of the bigger matchups, they just need to let him play within the game and they'll be fine, right? And so that's what I thought they did a good job of with on Saturday and what they need to continue to do. And then, having the other team kind of hand it to you at the end of the game is certainly never sad.
It's one of those games where, like, I'm just happy I'm 2-0. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, I'll take it.
Out of it.
I'll take it. I knew it was going to be close because why on earth would it not have been for my personal sanity? We have 2 other, they played, I guess, lesser teams. Central Michigan at Pitt. Pitt kind of showed up, did what they needed to do, in my opinion. I think Pitt is one of those opponents that you kind of can never overlook.
Yeah, I really like Eli Holstein. Like they come to Tallahassee in a few weeks. And so that's one that it's like, man, he can take over. And obviously they were 7-0 at one point last year, and then he gets hurt and they've got some, a much tougher schedule. They went 7-0 against a pretty bad first part of the schedule.
Yeah.
But they're a team that can score, and I like Holstein a ton. They've got some elite weapons. I love them in the backyard brawl this weekend against West Virginia.
Yes.
I think they're going to have a great time. Unfortunately, I've always kind of liked West Virginia too, but I don't think it's very good news for the Mountaineers. We'll see if they can be competitive or not. But I do like their offense a lot. And then with Narduzzi, you're always gonna have a really tough physical defense.
Yeah.
I think that Pitt fans would tell you like, man, we didn't love giving up 17 points to this team, but man, I think their defense is going to do enough in most games. And then if Holstein stays healthy, he's one of the better quarterbacks in this conference. I know Beck gets all the love and Klubnik gets all the love and Castellanos gets all the attention from running his mouth, and I'm backing it up so far.
Backing it up. Yeah, but exactly.
Holstein's like one of the underrated guys in this conference that's really, really good. And I don't think enough people talk about it because it's Pitt. Let's be honest. Like it's not like this premier ACC brand that's been around forever or anything like that, but he's really freaking good. And he'll take them as, him staying healthy, which he wasn't able to do last year. They'll win a lot of games there. They've got a tough schedule. They've got to play a lot of good teams, but they've got a good chance to have a really good year with him. And they, like I said, they took care of their business against a team they're much better than.
Yeah. And leading into that, who didn't? Syracuse.
Yeah.
They did not take care of UConn. They went to overtime and won it 27-20.
Yeah. And I love Fran Brown. Again, here I go with, hyping up every single ACC coach again. I thought Angeli was good. I think he was, but they asked him to throw the ball 53 times. Like that's just never going to be the game plan to win. And so, you had to, because you were down and you had to come back. They scored 14 points in the fourth and then 7 in the overtime period to win. So they got it done. But man, that's concerning for Syracuse looking forward. Like their schedule, there's no let up. I know they won 10 games last year. They play Colgate next, right? But then they've got Clemson, Duke, SMU, Pitt, Georgia Tech, UNC, Miami, Notre Dame, BC. They could lose all those games. Now I don't think they will because the ACC, you go back and forth. But man, there's a reason their over/under win total in Vegas this year was like 5.5. Like they were expected to step back a little bit. You lose Kyle McCord, who was great for them last year. You lose some weapons on the outside. You have some guys transfer out. I think this is going to be a long year for Syracuse. I was impressed with them at points in that second half against Tennessee. I think they got the lead down to like 9 or something. Yeah. And so I was watching, that was on at the same time that Florida State was playing Bama. So I wasn't like super tuned into that.
Yeah.
We had it up on one of the TVs in the box. And so I was somewhat impressed with them. I was like, hey, maybe they'll be a little bit better. But then to come out and just fall flat against UConn, and thankfully, again, you get the win. That's all that really matters. Because if you're Syracuse this year, you need to just make a bowl. That's the most important thing. But yeah, I was a little disappointed in the way they played. Listen, I was disappointed in the way a lot of teams played this weekend, and so listen, you got the win. That's all that matters. Go get the win against Colgate, and then start praying like hell that you can win it in Clemson the week after.
Praying like hell. I know a lot of people were like, don't count out Fran Brown, but I agree. I just was not super high on them this year. So hopefully, like you said, we can pray for a win for them in Clemson because that would be something. All right. Western Carolina at Wake Forest. Wake Forest got the job done 42-10.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not trying to sound like a downer here, but again, for the Wake folks that are out there, they're probably somewhat realistic. I mean, Wake's got a really tough road this year. And I think you mentioned Stanford. I mean, the Wake-Stanford matchup that we get this year is probably going to no, actually it doesn't even happen. They don't play Stanford this year. They must play Cal. No, they don't have either California
really?
School.
That's crazy.
Must be nice to not have to travel to California like some of those other teams.
But
man, their schedule, I mean, they do play Oregon State, so that's a winnable game for sure, but it's on the road, so you are traveling to the West Coast for that, I guess. Maybe that's why I didn't give them another one. Their schedule's tough too, man. They got to go to Florida State. They got to play SMU. They got to play at Duke. They got to play against UNC. I think their schedule is tough, and I'm not a big fan of where their talent level is at this moment. I mean, obviously you lose a coach that's been there forever, and then you bring in somebody else from the Pac-12. I think it's going to be a tough road for Syracuse. For Wake Forest. I mean, you had to get this. Western Carolina, no disrespect, absolutely terrible. Like just not even on the same planet as where Wake Forest is. I mean, I'm still worried about Wake only beating Kennesaw State 10-9 the week before on opening night. And so that's where my big concern kind of lies with them is, man, if you get an ACC play and you play anything like that, then you're in a lot of trouble. So I do think the Western Carolina game was a nice moment for Wake Forest, even considering the opponent, because I don't know that there's going to be too many of them this year for the Demon Deacons.
Yeah, someone commented and was like, wow, your dad's O-line really sucks, which is fine, whatever you want to say. I don't care. The week that they won 10-9 to Kennesaw. And I'm like, my guy, the call is coming from inside the house. You should maybe worry about your own team. And I'm not trying to talk shit this week, right? We play them on Thursday night. We have a short week. They have a short week. So I'm just saying, I'm with you. They have things to be worried about. Do you think that Cal has things to be worried about? They got the job done against Texas Southern 35-3. I just feel like they got so depleted in the transfer portal this offseason. They lost Mendoza. They lost Ott. They lost everybody. They did gain and put together one of the best coaching staffs, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on them and that win against Texas Southern?
Yeah, I mean, again, you're playing a team that you're way better than, even losing all that you lost. And so it's hard to pull a lot away from that. I do think the win against Oregon State was impressive. I think they've got a really good chance against Minnesota this weekend. Again, thoughts on the Texas Southern game. I mean, they went out and took care of business like they were supposed to. They were a big favorite going into it. Yeah. You're not supposed to lose games like this at home against teams that are not even close to your talent profile. But they've got more winnable games. I mean, they've got Minnesota on here. I do think that's winnable. They've got really good. I do think as much as they lost, I do think that the way that they play is really impressive. I mean, they took Florida State down. They lost that Florida State game, and that would have been one where you could just see them quit. They took Miami to the wire. They had some big wins out there last year. They've got winnable stuff this year. Obviously, they're going to play Stanford, so that's a game they should win. They're going to play Virginia Tech. Who knows if Brent Pry will still even be there in late October. They're going to play Duke at home, so it's always tough for the East Coast teams to have to travel out there. They play UNC, who's terrible. They play at BC, who I'm not incredibly high on, even though Dylan had a good game last week. So I do think that I'm a little more optimistic than I am for them than I am on Syracuse, Wake, Stanford. I think a best case scenario for Cal would be middle of the conference. So I'm not as low on them. I do think they have a little bit better chance. I like their freshman quarterback. I think they've got a great chance to go out and I think you have to take them seriously, right? They're not a team that the Florida States or the Clemsons or the Miami should lose to, but I do think you have to take them seriously if you're most of the other teams in the conference.
100%. Do we think that Stanford is a team that needs to be taken seriously? That's the real question. Everyone knows I'm an ACC homer, but I hate Stanford.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say they're a team that needs to be taken out of the conference, is what they need
yeah,
to be taken out of. Sorry.
no, it's so fact. I'm like, okay, I'm like, you know what? BYU is my alma mater, right? And I'm like, I'm at odds with my alma mater typically. So I'm like, you know what? Let's go ACC. Let's see if they can get the job any remotely close to done. Like, I'm just thinking, like, keep it a close game with BYU. And
Yeah.
it's like at BYU, night game in a Lavelle Edwards Stadium, not set up for success. But like, it's incredible how bad they are. Like, it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if that Hawaii game wasn't enough for you to just kind of like see it and be
Yeah.
like, dude, this team is freaking terrible. I mean, their most winnable game is coming up in 2 weeks when they play San Jose State at home. And I don't know that that's super winnable, right? Like, I think the ESPN FPI on that is like 70% Stanford. So you're telling me that like that's just a little bit better than a coin flip. And we'll see what they look like after they travel to UVA in a couple of weeks. They play at SMU, they play Florida State, they play at Miami, they play Pitt, they play at UNC. I guess that's somewhat doable. They got to go play Notre Dame too. Well, I guess they play Notre Dame at home at the end of the year. But yeah, their schedule is murderer's row for the amount of talent that Stanford doesn't have. And I don't think this should shock anybody. I mean, yeah, you fire your coach in the offseason and a billion guys jump in the portal. They weren't a good team last year before this happened. And so, yeah, I mean, they're in a ton of trouble. I mean, they could go 2-10, and it wouldn't surprise me. In fact, if you were looking at like a live Vegas season total right now, it'd probably be 2.5, 3.5, somewhere in there. And I might take the under. So yeah, they've got a really long road ahead. I don't really see them having a very successful year, but again, I'm not super surprised by that based on their offseason moves and the way they, had to fire the coach and everything else like that.
Yeah. Like I said, not the biggest Stanford stan, but I do want to see Andrew Luck like be successful being the GM there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good look for college football as an overall if that happens. Lastly, there's nothing I hate more than losing to the SEC, and Virginia Tech let me down this week.
How embarrassing!
So like anybody else, please, just not them.
Yeah, and I mean, you're a favorite at home against Vandy. You just had a fairly decent showing against South Carolina, where South Carolina needed some special teams things to pull off a win. And South Carolina's got playoff aspirations. And so, I mean, to give up 21 points in the fourth quarter and just continuously shoot yourself in the foot. I mean, that's Syracuse. I will say Kyron Jones looked fine, but I think that I looked at that Virginia Tech game later in the year for Florida State, and I thought, well, that could be tough if Jones is really running.
Yeah.
What they showed me this, I mean, 3 and out, 4 and out, right? Fumble on their next drive on the fourth play. Like they were so pathetic in the fourth quarter. And so to do that against Vandy, and I know Vandy's better. They give up touchdowns on all 5 possessions that Vandy had in the second half. They scored touchdowns on. Their last possession in the first half, they scored a field goal. The only possession that Vandy didn't score a touchdown on was when they knelt the ball down twice to end the game.
Yeah.
How are you that bad, man? And like turnovers on downs and fumbles and everything else, like Virginia Tech is such a dumpster fire. I'm bragging on these ACC coaches. I mean, there's no way Brent Pry makes it out of this year. I don't even know if he makes it to November. So crappy situation. That's a program that should absolutely be doing better than they are. They're in one of the most talent-rich areas in the country. There's no excuse for it. Virginia Tech fans deserve better. And so, that's a long year coming, and they're going to have a new coach at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think it's embarrassing too, because I grew up in this like, oh my gosh, Virginia Tech is so great. My dad's first year coaching at UVA was 2016, and we got our asses beat.
Yeah.
In Lane Stadium, last game of the year, it was 56-3. I'll never forget, right? Like asses beat. And it's like Virginia Tech's very good. Virginia Tech is now they've become a program where like you get to be the next head coach if all you do is beat UVA, which shouldn't be something to write home about because they've won 20 of the last 22. So it's like, you're right. The fans deserve better. It's so sad to see the fall from grace that they were. And again, I think college football is better when programs like them are good. And so I agree. It's totally embarrassing. And weren't they even like winning at the half?
I think they were down. Yeah, they were up 20-10 at the half. Like they looked like they were going to cruise their way. And the Vandy Cinderella story like of last year was just not going to be a real thing. And then to give up what 40 points? No, I guess
Yes.
34 if I do
Yeah,
math a little
34.
bit
Yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah.
He
Yeah,
got
yeah.
34 points in the second half over. I mean, like I said, Vandy scored on 6 of their last 7 possessions. That 7th one was a kneel down. You know, like they probably could have scored there with 50 seconds left if they wanted to. Just inexcusable. Yeah, because I mean, when I grew up, when we were watching, I mean, obviously you know about Mike Vick and them making the championship and
Yeah.
how good they were in the Big East. But then they got to the ACC and had success too. I mean, they lost to Florida State in an ACC championship, maybe 2 of them, but they lost to Florida State in ACC. They were there. They were competing.
Yeah.
And they had success in multiple conferences. They've got so much talent around them. It really is inexcusable for Virginia Tech to be that bad. And so they will and are going to make a change, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. As they should. I can't wait to see who they get because I think that's equally as hard. The only thing we didn't talk about, and I almost forgot about them, which is rightfully makes sense, is UNC. They played at Charlotte, 20-3. I mean, I'm not impressed. 20-3 at Charlotte, which is, I know, an away game, but a lesser team and in your same state.
Yeah. I know the transitive property is stupid in college football, and you can't always say, oh, well, this team did it because matchups are different. But
yeah.
App State beat that team by 23 the week before, right? Like, what is UNC doing? I mean, obviously the disaster of an embarrassment that was the TCU game to open things up. I mean, the Belichick, I was looking at UNC's schedule before the season, and I thought, man, they could win a lot of games because if they can win their first couple, right? You beat TCU, you beat Charlotte, you beat Richmond, you'll start out 3-0. You beat UCF, you'll start out 4-0. And then the ACC schedule is not terrible. You play Cal, you play UVA, you play Syracuse, you play Stanford, Wake, Duke, NC State. Outside of that NC State game and the Clemson game, like they should have been going into this year, they should have been a favorite in like all those games. So if you luck up and beat Clemson or you luck up and win in Raleigh, you're going to the ACC championship and build. And it's like the perfect storyline. Oh, he takes a job, this, that, the other. Now I look at their schedule and I'm like, dude, yeah, they'll probably still beat Stanford at home. They'll probably beat either Syracuse or Wake, maybe both those teams. But I'm looking at their schedule. I'm like, man, are they going to make a bowl? So I don't know, man. I think, this UNC thing is an absolute disaster. And the problem is, when Prime went to Colorado, right, like he took some pretty good talent. I mean, UNC's not got that talent profile. And, I know that Colorado went 4-8 the first year they were out there too, but they quickly rebounded and used a lot of talent and they've done a good job in the portal and recruiting and stuff like that. You didn't see like this big swath of transfers going to play for Belichick. It just wasn't really the same. And so, all the disaster that was the offseason for Belichick and Hudson and everybody else, it seems like that's manifested itself into the regular season too. And I think they got a long year ahead of them.
Well, and I think it's interesting too, because I think when he was winning all of those Super Bowls with the New England Patriots, a lot of people were under the impression that it was him. And now it's like, as time goes on, I'm like, so it was Tom Brady and Gronk. And I'm not taking away anything from Tom Brady or Gronk and who they are as phenomenal people and football players outside of that, because they got the job done in Tampa too. But I'm like, this is just further proving that I don't think he was ever a piece of the puzzle. And then his son's the defensive coordinator. And I'm like, you're letting up that many points against TCU. You're letting a team like Charlotte score on you. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. And what's so interesting is Tom's numbers, like in the regular season, were always really good, but then in the playoffs they were bad. But what was really good about New England is they're exactly what you just mentioned. Their defense was incredible. Like they won Super Bowls like 10-3.
Yeah.
I'm all for giving Tom credit, and he won a Super Bowl here for my team. So like I'm not taking away from Tom either. Yeah. But like they won a Super Bowl 10-3. Like their defense was good. And so that 10-3 Super Bowl against the Rams, Tom didn't win that thing. The defense did. And so what is the defense? Like what is happening in North Carolina where you're giving up 44 to TCU at home? Like, I don't even care about the Charlotte game. I mean, go back. I'm still stuck on week 1 and how, ESPN made this like a Bill Belichick montage of this is what, man, they were licking their chops for this. And, hilarious to see what's happened, and they better figure it out quick because the ACC will eat them alive. This will be his last year.
100%. 48 points. It was the most ever scored against a Bill Belichick team. Insanity.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a crazy stat.
And it's like it's disappointing for college football because UNC is a beautiful university. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a beautiful campus, and I'm going to throw up saying it, but it's a beautiful campus, and and they're a Jordan school. They have everything at their disposal to be a great team in the ACC. So it's just kind of crazy to me that this is what turns out of it. I mean, I'll just never even understand the hire. You go from one guy who's an old guy, Mac Brown. I know that he's a coaching legend, so I don't want to take that away from him. And then this is your go. Like, this is your guy. I don't know. I got a lot of issues with it, but I'm still not over the week 1 loss either. Well, that's all. That's the recap of week 2. We'll end it off with, what game are you most excited for this weekend? And I think the answer is Clemson at Georgia Tech, but is there anything else, or is that the one?
Yeah, it's a split. It's mostly that, but I am intrigued to see Miami, South Florida. Like, I would like to see, does Miami, I think Miami's going to win either way, right? This will get clipped if I'm wrong, but I think Miami's going to win either way. But do they play with their food, right? Like, we've said that a few times. Yeah. Do they let a South Florida team that does not have the same profile, do they let them stick around? And if so, can South Florida find magic one more time? Because if they do, if South Florida wins this game, they should be the number 1 team in the country. I don't care about what anybody's preseason rankings were. And do I think they're the best team? Do I think they'd win every game? No, but the number 1 team last year didn't win every game. They got blown out in the playoffs. So, but I think they'd be the deserving of the number 1 team in the country. So that's one that's really interesting to me. If Miami comes out and wins that game by like 17 or 21 or something, I think Miami's a national championship caliber type team, right? Now, maybe sounds crazy to say that, oh, you beat USF by 21 and you're going to go win it. I'm not saying they're going to win it. I just think they have the mentality, they have the pieces to potentially go out and do that. They need to take care of business against Florida and Florida State the next couple of weeks before we can crown them. But that's one that I'm looking at. I'd like to see if Pitt could, or if West Virginia could find a way to beat Pitt. I know that's like anti-ACC there, but just for their fans, for Rich Rod. I mean, I had a soft spot for West Virginia when they used to play USF. But yeah, I mean, the game of the week in the ACC is easily Clemson, Georgia Tech. I mean, this could decide who goes to the ACC championship. If Clemson loses this one, you look at the rest of their schedule, and they got to go to Louisville. They got to play a Florida State team way better than any of us would have ever expected them to be through 2 games.
Yes, absolutely.
There's landmines on this. They got to go to Dallas, I believe, to play SMU. And then they got to play South Carolina at the end of the year. So I do think that that's one. Now, the rest of their schedule, I really like them against Syracuse. I really like them against UNC, Boston College, obviously Furman and Duke. They're going to win those games. But if they lose this one, their margin for error is basically 0 the rest of the year. I mean, they could lose to South Carolina again, get in the ACC championship and be fine. But I think this is almost a must-win for Clemson. And if Brent Key wants to take the step from all this hype and all this excitement around his program, you got to go out and beat somebody. And they did last year. They beat Florida State. I don't know how impressive that really was. They beat Miami. That was impressive. They took Georgia to the tilt. But if you really want the respect of like Georgia Tech's here and for real, you can't lose to a somewhat floundering Clemson team to start this year. Like, I think this game will be a ton of fun. I love that it's a noon kickoff because I hate when the noon slate is terrible and you're like, man, I want to watch something good. I love that we just get this first thing on Saturday morning.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited for it. I totally forgot about the backyard brawl. I am a firm believer in letting rivalries live, so I'm super excited for that too. I will be on the other rooting end of it than you, but hey, maybe there's a bet in there that we make. I don't know.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Where can we follow you? Where can we find your stuff? What are the links?
Yeah, for sure. Just on X or Twitter or whatever you call it these days, TJ_Pittinger. And then for FSU stuff, my show is Double Fries, No Slaw. A little shout out to Guthrie's there. But yeah, come hang out, man. We like to, I mean, I could sit here for another 2 hours and just talk ball. So I enjoy it. I like doing it. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for being here. Like and follow him. Like and follow us. Subscribe to his YouTube. Have a wonderful evening. And that